On the brief this morning is Nigeria seeking South Africa's backing for its bid to attain full membership of the G20, BRICS, and the BRICS New Development Bank. This request was made by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Dumegu-Ojukwu, during her closing remarks at the ministerial session of the 11th Nigeria-South Africa Biannual Binational Commission in Cape Town, South Africa. That's on Monday. Nigeria is also seeking South Africa's support for it to assume leadership roles in thematic discussion of interest under South Africa's G20 presidency.
And now we're beginning to receive clarity on that. But to other stories, the presidency has refuted claims that some sections of the tax reform bills are targeted at impoverishing the northern region of the country. President Bola Tinubu had earlier sent the bills to the National Assembly, and they have since been greeted with controversy, with some quarters claiming the bills are against the northern region. However, presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga notes that the bills will not destroy the economy of any section of the country, but instead aim to enhance the quality of life for Nigerians, especially the disadvantaged who are trying to make a living.
And that will not be all as far as that issue of taxation is concerned. The chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, Taiwo Oyedele, is urging Nigerians not to allow a few grey areas in the proposed tax reform bills to cause an obstruction to the passage of the bills. Speaking on the town hall meeting on the tax reform bills organized by Channels Television, Mr. Oyedele noted that there are over 200 transformative provisions in the bills that can fix the country. And
outside our shores, Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko says he will remain the head of the government rather than preside over the parliament after his party's landslide election win sparked questions over his political role. The ruling PASTEF party of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Sonko won 130 seats in the 165 seats National Assembly in snap parliamentary elections on November the 17th. The victory was one of the largest majorities ever won by a single party in the West African nation and triggered speculation over whether Sonko should step down as Prime Minister to lead the National Assembly in the interests of institutional balance.
And at least 56 people were killed in a deadly stampede at the football match in Guinea's second largest city of Nzerekore. In a statement by the junta-controlled government on Monday, said protests broke out over dissatisfaction with the refereeing decisions, resulting in fatal stampede at Sunday's match. The government statement said hospital services have put the provisional death toll at 56.
And in sports, in entertainment rather, Ashake's third and latest album, Lungu Boy, has made history, becoming the longest charting #1 album on the Turntable album chart. Lungu Boy has now officially spent 15 weeks at the summit of the chart since its release on August the 8th, 2024.
Yeah, so Nigerians doing big things at the end of the day. So we celebrate Nigerians for every win. Yesterday was Whiskey, today is Ashake. Next, well, I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe Kayode, as we come to Kayode right now. We're going to talk to this screen to make sure that, we're going to get seated with Kayode and get to chat with Kayode on this particular one.
And those are the speaking top of wins, there are many more wins to come if you consider the nominations of the Grammys. So we have quite a lot of expectations there. So let's join Kayode.
Absolutely. So, Kayode, this is up to you as to tell the people what we are tracking on X.
On trends.
You're welcome back to the arena, guys.
Yeah.
And, I can tell it's been quite
the arena of choice.
Absolutely. It's been quite a busy one on X. Elon Musk usually prides himself as one of the, X being one of the most, visited websites across the world. But in this part of the country, or the world rather, what is trending? Well, the tax reform bills naturally topping the trend at the moment. Channels Television had that very extensive town hall yesterday, and you could see just how much people were interested in this, having all of the stakeholders chiming in, even the governor of Nasarawa State phoning in live on the show just to ask questions, to share his thoughts, and by extension the thoughts of leaders from the north. But what have you been saying about this? Well, this is in response to that claim that only Lagos and Rivers will benefit from the tax reform bills. On the one hand, the tax reform committee said no. In fact, Lagos, Rivers would lose as a result of the tax reforms, and there was a simulation as to what some states will get eventually if this sails through. But you see, the governor of Benue State had said that earlier on, and Mr. Oyedele responded to that. But what are you saying? The first is from Just Faisal, who said Governor Zulum's statement suggests a concern that the proposed tax reform bills might disproportionately benefit only Lagos and Rivers State, potentially leaving other regions behind. Well, this could raise questions about the fairness and inclusivity of the reforms. This user is asking, what do you think? Will it be fair if other states are left out of the benefits of such reforms? Again, as we said, they've come to clear the air that no, in fact, these states, that's Lagos, Rivers, lose as a result of the reforms.
At the end of the day, Kayode and Bukola, the truth is that data doesn't support what the governor claims. The data available shows that Lagos and Rivers are actually going to be the biggest losers. But let's get on to the other people. Olufumi says the only consequence of tax reform is that governors will have to sit up and drive consumption and jobs in their state so they can earn more revenue.
Well, next up is this user says the benefit of a tax is that states get more of what they deserve, right? And he says Governor Zulum should work to improve his state, please. There you go.
Okay, this person says, your name is Q. I'm not sure what that means, but that's your name. You needed wider consultation, but quick to say only Lagos and Rivers will benefit the tax reform. Have you taken your time to go through the tax bill? My view on the bill is that it will expose corruption and end insecurity.
Interesting. And United Ben Da says the North is really trying to reject the tax return policy. If every developed nation does that, if other states want to be like Lagos and Rivers, let them step up. And that's the heart of the conversation. Other states, particularly in the North, must increase productivity. And even at that, it's not skewed against the North. If explanations provided by the chairman of the Tax Reform Committee are anything to go by, as a matter of fact, they're positioned, to benefit more from the reforms, from the bills.
At the end of this section, I think 22 subsection 12 tells you that whether you're consuming or producing, you have something to gain. But let's move on to Nigeria introducing that malaria vaccine into our national routine immunization schedule. And it's a good one, and it's a welcome development. Nigerians have been celebrating this, besides those who are skeptical about immunization generally. But this is what Better Eye Unfiltered says. Hopefully this move reflects Nigeria's commitment to not only combating malaria, but also signing with global health initiative to eradicate this preventable disease. It is a hopeful sign for reducing child mortality and improving overall public health in the region.
First Child of Northern Nigeria says the only government initiative that truly reached the masses. This is why many, particularly in Northern Nigeria, strongly oppose it.
There you go. So you get the skepticism, right? This next user, Victor Viri, says even if every sector in Nigeria fails, the health sector must never fail. So we'll keep tabs on this malaria vaccine. The fact that it's now been added, so there should be an extra column if you have a child. There should be an extra column on that vaccine schedule that says malaria vaccine. So all the others, you have to get it, and then malaria as well. But let's quickly flip to what President Tinubu said. By the way, we understand that President Bola Tinubu has arrived South Africa. We'll be bringing you some of the sights of his arrival in South Africa very soon. But earlier on, the president had spoke about Nigerians living a fake life before subsidy removal, and that got a lot of people talking naturally. So the first person, Shakiru Oyegule, says, I am pained that President Bola Tinubu is yet to grant or even activate immediate chat like OBJ then. With this, he will be able to articulate his policies, then convince ordinary Nigerians who will champion his course once convinced that he's on their side. So yes, absolutely, the president should speak to Nigeria.
I think when people use the word fake life, it really, I don't know, it gets me on the edge. I really don't like that word fake life. Nigerians did not have some fake life at the end of the day. As a matter of fact, if Jonathan has followed through, we wouldn't be here today. So that coming from the president and some of the other people within the government, is really not something to cheer about or to say that we should talk about people having fake life or not. Nigerians have given different leaders opportunity to lead, and they've led based on how best they can lead the country given the situation they found themselves. So using the word fake life, I don't think it's going to sit well with a lot of people, because if you look at Nigeria as a country by section 16 of our constitution, we're basically some kind of a welfare state, if you will, if you look at the constitution. So there's nothing wrong with providing for your people. That this implementation is necessary at this time for us to move forward, it's okay. But saying we're living fake life, Mr. President, I don't think a lot of people will agree with you on that one. Samson Ezomo Gene says, when a father is financially strong, the whole family benefit. But when a wife and a few out of the children are wealthy, there is no guarantee that the whole family benefit. The president should be sincere in fighting corruption. That is the issue. It's now a way. It's now a way of life. So, guys, that's sometimes they say the subsidy issue had corruption. Why don't you remove the corruption and keep the subsidy? But we took out the subsidy entirely. Those are arguments sometimes that people make. Bukola.
Yes, indeed. Let's not forget that the president was speaking in representative capacity at that institution in Ondo State. Was actually represented by the vice chancellor of one of the institutions in Kwara State. But nonetheless, those views reflect the president's views. And, you know, a lot can be said about the economy that he inherited, which, according to that statement, is being referred to as a facade. Let's not forget the multidimensional figures that were released by the United Nations in 2022, which adjudged that 65% of Nigerians were living in multi-dimensional poverty in the north, with Sokoto State bearing the highest burden at 91%, and in the south, 35% were living in multidimensional poverty. And not to talk of all other very dismal human development indicators in Nigeria, in the economy that Mr. President inherited. And there is no evidence yet in 2024 to show that the reforms of Mr. President have indeed lifted Nigerians out of that very, very stark poverty line. As a matter of fact, the economy has plummeted with the reforms that have been brought to bear by the president, talking about the devaluation of the currency and, of course, the subsidy removal. So, you know, the communicators of Mr. President's policy must look into some of the speeches that are, you know, presented to represent Mr. President's views. But this is not the first time. We can also recall that Mr. President had spoken about how Nigerians have the opportunity to, you know, purchase CNG, which is also inadequate as an alternative to petrol. But let's hear what Clem Chukwu is saying. Clem starts by saying, when crude was $30 to BBL, we gave subsidiary. Debt burden was lower, our financial system was strong, and that life was a fake. He's asking. Now it's $70 to the barrel. We don't have subsidy. We up our neck in debt, and this life is real.
Okay, so that conversation clearly still ongoing. Let's know what you think. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief. But yesterday, if you follow the EFCC well, you'd see the post that EFCC put up with images saying that it just made single largest asset recovery till date. Recover State in Abuja measuring, get this, 150,500 square meters and containing 753 units of duplexes and other apartments. I just want us to take a few seconds to soak in the image and the information.
It's been forfeited to the federal government.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just look at that. But then Nigerians have been speaking. So honeymoon is over. Let's get right into what Nigerians have been saying about this particular one. Olamide is the first one. And yeah, I guess it's as good as mine. This user says, for this recovery to resonate fully with the public, the EFCC must prioritize transparency and accountability. The magnitude of this recovery demands full disclosure. We demand details and the official's identity be made public, because the EFCC said a top brass of from a top brass of government. This user goes on to say, without these, then trust in the system risks eroding. But then ends with a compliment. Kudos to the EFCC for their efforts, but the fight against corruption demands holistic reforms and accountability.
Maybe it's a plea bargain. We do not know. Perhaps it's why it didn't show the person.
So we don't know the terms.
Yeah, we don't know the terms of surrender. Full disclosure is needed to build trust. You should include the name of the individual.
And Ben Samuel says, we often hear about seizures and forfeitures, but when these assets are sold to the highest bidder, there's complete silence and the matter is brushed aside. Who owned the Ikoyi property where large sums of cash were discovered? I think that's back then in 2019. But, well, that conversation continues. We can now report that Mr. President, as Kaidi said earlier, has arrived South Africa. and that's where, engagements are continuing as far as Nigeria's participation is BRICS is ongoing, amongst other elements that Mr. President will also be, exploring for Nigeria's, economic development. Let's have that video now.
So the president that you see arrived in South Africa for the 11th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission, which coincides with 25 years of framework established to strengthen ties between Nigeria and South Africa. So we'll be having discussions with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on trade and investment. Now, this is a tweet the president put up on political consultations, consular, migration matters, defense, security, cooperation, and of course, BRICS, naturally, we expect will come up. So we'll keep tabs with the president's visit and give you updates. But I know a lot of Nigerians are also keeping tabs on the president's international travels. Right, so they've been looking at it, and in fact, there's a list of the travels he made last year and the ones he has made this year so far. A lot of people have their eyes on France and the UK. The president having traveled there at least 4 times each over the just 1+ years he's been in office. But more importantly is what would Nigerians get from the spending of taxpayers? So we'll keep tabs on that, but let's get into our very first conversation on the show this morning. And this is something that we sometimes take for granted. So we have a government in that sense. And a lot of people focus on the executive, the judiciary, legislature, but we have other institutions that are powerful. Sometimes people say even more powerful than government, in quotes, our traditional institutions, our religious institutions. So we're starting off this morning discussing how we can leverage on, our religious institutions, our fathers in that sense, to get that much desired change that we desire in our nation. Not forgetting that we are majorly young people in Nigeria. So how can we get wisdom of the old, of the religion, and then instill in the younger one? We're joined by the Catholic Archbishop of Sokoto Diocese and the founder of the Kukah Center, Bishop Matthew Kukah, joins us live from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Your Eminence.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Bishop. For a lot of people, they've missed having you on interviews, seeing you. And maybe we could talk about what you've been up to. I know nation building clearly, but then there's a big controversy in the nation today. The tax reform bills, for example. Again, it's splitting the country across the regional lines, north versus south, religious lines and all of that. And this is an issue you've had to deal with time and again. Even at the Kukah Center, at the heart of the work you do is cohesion, ensuring there's, more working together amongst Nigerians. So when you see issues like this, Bishop, what comes to mind?
Well, Nigeria is it's a highly energetic country with people that are so eminently gifted and roaring to go. And I think the greatest problem in Nigeria has been the inability of the state to create enough strong guardrails to contain the energy, the vision, the competing narratives of our country. And it is this lack of what I call effective guardrail. This is why the conversations often spill over and they lead to violence and so on. But I hear you when you speak about all the issues you've identified. I'm really excited about the tax reform bill because in fact, the first reason is that I know nothing about it. But I've started trying to educate myself. Any form of reform at all, it's important to get this thoroughly dysfunctional country working again. So I am excited because hopefully that we can take the time to listen to this conversation about how to avoid and to end this financial recklessness and this irony of Nigerians living by the seaside and washing their faces with saliva. Nigerians living in a country that is so richly endowed and yet being spectators to the rascality and irresponsibility of the elite who continue to mismanage our resources. So I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of a very long journey towards fiscal management and efficiency that can lead to the growth and development of the kind of country that we envision.
Good morning, Bishop. Let's touch on religion and governance now, which is, something that the Peace Committee, of which you are one of the founding fathers, is organizing. And to be specific, the discourse provides a platform for religious leaders to discuss the role of religion in strengthening and sustaining democratic governance in Nigeria. Now, while this appears to be lofty, some would say that, some would express skepticism because those who have adorned the religious garb in the past and have participated in governance have not particularly covered themselves in glory. They have not strengthened the institutions that they left behind. They've not helped to transform Nigeria's economy in a discernible way. So why should Nigerians be excited about this endeavor?
Well, thank you. The first point to make is that I'm a Catholic priest. Okay, I don't have a ministry of my own, as the pastors, powerful pastors say. I do not have a congregation that I can abandon and go and join a political party and contest election, lose elections, and come back and continue again. So I am on a Catholic road that is pretty clear with its own discipline and so on. So I don't fall into that conversation that you're talking about. Therefore, if you want, you can look for those pastors who have abandoned their terrains and gone into politics. They will be in a much better position to tell you how well they have functioned or malfunctioned. That's so. But to come back to the issue, let me clarify something that Kayode said. When he talks about traditional rulers and religious leaders, Nigerians have always tended to mistakenly conflate these two identities. Traditional rulers are not religious leaders, perhaps in the traditional sense of where we came from, where you had what you might call the divine right of kings and so on, where traditional rulers combine both the spiritual and the political. But since the emergence of the modern nation state, that pushed feudalism right to the backburners in order to establish a democratic state, the roles of traditional or religious leaders have subsided substantially. And I think part of the problem we have in Nigeria is that a traditional ruler is appointed by the government, okay, after some kind of a process. But at the end of the day, the validation is done by the governor of any given state. In my case, as the bishop of the Diocese of Sokoto, if the governor is not happy with me or the president of Nigeria is not happy with me, all they can do is take me to court. They can't fire me because they had nothing to do with my appointment. Traditional rulers have been fired and can be fired and will be fired if they fall foul of the political ideology of the day, not because they have done anything wrong, but if they fall foul of what the governor wants, they'll be sent packing. So you're dealing with two completely different rules. But Nigerians have tended to conflate them. However, to make the point, it's important that these institutions that have stood the test of time and are eminently held by very respected people, that we harmonize the values that they bring to the table for the building of a democratic and a just and a fair and equitable society. How we do this depends on the nature of the state itself and its operators. And maybe we can talk about it a little bit more, because I think the contamination of these institutions by politics has largely brought the disrespect and the opprobrium, and the cynical way that people see, people in religion and people in traditional institutions.
Bishop, we will use you, and good morning as well, Bishop. We'll use you as a benefit of our hindsight, and the credentials you have speaks to that effect, because we've seen you at different fora, bringing one level of intervention or the other. And if you were to speak to the Nigerian state and what is going on right now, because one of the conversations we want to have is to the effect that people like you being able to guide the younger generation into the future that we hope all of us will have for a better country. But going back to talking about you as our benefit of hindsight, given the experience you've had and your contribution to nation building, when you look at the Bola Tinubu's administration, what will be your immediate assessment? I know you made some remarks in the past recently, but what will be your immediate assessment as to say, these are the things that I think is going right, these are the things I think can be modified, or these are the things that should be jettisoned?
Well, I mean, you know, that is the subject for a PhD thesis. And I think all I can say very briefly is that, first of all, this government must respond urgently to the issues of the day. And from wherever you are, the issues of the day are issues of massive impoverishment of Nigerians, the incredible hardships that Nigerians are going through. You can see the frustration on the faces of people. You can see the frustration on the faces of families, husbands, wives, children. Now, the cumulative impact on this, on the society itself, are immense. Now, I am convinced that this government has some lofty ideas, and it could probably, and I'm hopeful it will do great things for our country. But I think there is a total absence of a coherent and a cohesive and a constructive strategy of engagement. And I'm talking here about engaging the citizens of Nigeria. This government very urgently needs a communication strategy and a deployment of certain kind of metaphors. And those metaphors relate to the visible presence of the president, of the vice president, in different segments of the Nigerian society. Because what we need now is something to convince Nigerians that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And that light, because not every light at the end of the tunnel, it could be the light of a running train. So, but that there is this light at the end of the tunnel, and all we need to do is to be a little bit patient, because better days are coming. I think that conversation has not been effectively and efficiently crafted yet. But I see from such massive developments like the local government, the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. I see the conversations around the tax reform bill, again, as I said, about which I know almost next to nothing. But I think that we are nudging our country and our people to a slightly different direction. But how we get there and how we retain our people's attention, that is something that this government needs to pay urgent attention to. You know, the business of people who are communicating for government is not to abuse, is not to take issues, is not to just make announcements. There needs to be a constructive way of engaging government. You know, so when people call themselves government spokesmen or whatever, it's not about telling Nigerians, it is also about engaging Nigerians. It's not about thinking that your business is to hold the fort and make sure that nobody dares to have any view that is contrary to the view of government. So we need to understand that people are governing on our behalf. And like they say in Hausa, you can't borrow my mouth to eat onions. Governance can only be effective if there is a channel of communication, and the government has the right antenna to hear how the weakest segments or the weakest link in the chain, it's surviving. And this, I think, is one of the major things that is missing. But we need to have an idea. Now, we're hearing little stories here and there. We are happy to hear about the return of the refinery in, is it Port Harcourt? It's very great news. But I think the government needs to segment a lot of this to let people understand that perhaps by Christmas or by next year or by the middle of next year, these are the kind of things that we should expect. If we have an idea of that, then it will help us to bear the cross, believing that sometimes, down the road there is redemption. I find that missing in this government.
But speaking of the policies of the government and, the approach to communication, Bishop, how in touch with reality would you say that the presidency is with the challenges of Nigerians? And this is, coming off of the back of the recent statement attributed to Mr. President about how the economy inherited from 2023 was a facade and, post-subsidy now, or prior to this subsidy regime, Nigerians have been living a fake life. So would you say that there is a disconnect between, the presidency and the economic challenges the Nigerians are facing?
Well, you don't go, if you finally get married and your wife suddenly realizes that the house you claim you had, you didn't really have it, or the car you claim you have, you didn't have it, or the money you claim you have, you didn't have it, there will be problems. But I think by now, Nigerians are a bit sick and tired of hearing these stories of, we didn't imagine that things would be as bad as they are. It also speaks to the issues about the level of attentiveness and the level of mental discipline and the level of the commitment of people who govern to create scenarios. Because if I were to want to be president of Nigeria tomorrow, I would first of all realize that, look, over the years, I should have an idea. Governments after governments, a month to the exit of government, there is, of course, everybody will know, a massive bazaar, a massive effort to move resources away, a looting spree. And that looting spree probably continues right up to the end of government. So you would know that if somebody posted that we have $30 billion in our foreign reserves, it is most likely, and you should be sensitive enough to know that by the time you really take over, there will be no $30 billion. We should be familiar with these conversations. But guess what? Look, people come to power not to make excuses, but to fix our problems. And I think this is where, and I don't want us to move away from the reason why I'm here, to talk about the events that we have planned today, because the Kukah Center is a policy center, and part of the things that I'm attracted by is policy intervention, so that government can understand it doesn't always have all the answers, and that also government appointees tend to lose their voices or collapse their voices into ideologies or the ideological commitment of government. And people often lose track, largely because, again, you assemble people in government, you have square pegs in round holes, and so on. So it's always a problem of assembling a team and the capacity of government to deliver. So I think what we are doing at the Kukah Center, and what we've been trying to do for the last 10 years or so, is to support and encourage government, but also to support and encourage ordinary Nigerians to have faith in democracy. But we also want to use this opportunity to let government know they must not take the loyalty of our people for granted. And that winning election does not necessarily suspend your responsibility to ordinary citizens by way of contact and engagement, and then to wait for the next election. So our intervention is also a source of encouragement. And that's why we're bringing together not only scholars to discuss this whole question of what really is the role of religion in a society such as ours.
Bishop, it's difficult to have someone of your caliber not drag you into issues of states. As you said, that's what the Kukah Center is really all about. But another leg of the conversation has to do with young people. And we would like your intervention because they are the successor generation. Some of them are already holding the fort within the spaces they operate at the moment. But what we found out is that a lot of people have faith in God, whatever deity they subscribe to. But faith in country is very, very low. As a bishop, as somebody who is passionate about Nigeria, and you're speaking to young people, How do you help them to have faith in our country?
I think the first mistake to make is to think that young people need your help. I spoke, I think, about a week or so ago at an event, which, of course, the media took only one aspect of what I said, distorted it, and went away with it. But one of the things I said, I was speaking to a gathering at the graduation of a school by my friend, Senator Ndoma Egba. And towards the end of my lecture, I encouraged young people to develop a culture of rebellion. And I don't mean rebellion in terms of we don't want this, we don't want that, but a rebellion against the paved pathways laid by their parents. You know, there are too many politicians, too many people in government and out of government who have stolen this country blind, and they mistakenly stole the country for the sake of their children. Guess what? It has turned out that most of the money they have stolen is going to lie waste somewhere, and it will be eaten by maggots, or it will be stolen, or it will be kept by their crooks and criminals in Europe who will take away the money after they are dead. But guess what? What the young people require now is just the mental space, the space to operate. Okay? What the young people are looking for, I'm sorry to say, the whole idea of not too young to run bill is a commendable idea. But I don't think many young people now are interested in a life in politics in terms of I want to be minister, I want to be governor. Young people just want to be given the space. So, for example, if you focus on railways, if you focus on electricity, if you focus on getting this country working at the level of, it's not just about the deployment of jobs, it is about creating the necessary environment. Young people are dreaming dreams, and they just want a Nigerian space that can contain their dreams and their imagination. Right now, their dreams are circumscribed by a tyrannical elite that simply sees itself incestuously as business. My business is to steal, to protect myself and protect my children and protect my family and those around me. But guess what? The surprise here is that we are going to see in the next 10 or so years a country that will not be able to respond to the contradictions of nepotism, patrimony, and the kind of system that we are running. Because if this country opens up, young people are going to be able to, they are already making millions, billions of naira on their own without anybody bothering about who your father is. So I think rather than thinking about what we can do for young people, it is actually to ask young people what do they want. And if you ask the average young person, now what do you want? How can I help you? And all the young man will tell you is, please get off my space.
It's a big day for the Kukah Center National Peace Commission, and its part as you have the high-level discourse on religion and democracy. And a lot of people will say, well, it's about time, right? As I said earlier on, religion offers us a very strong institution that we can leverage on for nation building, for democracy. But quickly, you know, we always define democracy as government of the people, by the people, for the people. We define democracy, but then we never really ask what kind of people are we talking about here? So perhaps you can speak to what you hope to achieve for the people who are mentioned 3 times and democracy once in the definition of democracy.
Well, let's suspend Abraham Lincoln's definition of democracy in Gettysburg and know that this is Nigeria, where the standards don't apply. Another form of government is called plutocracy. Plutocracy is government, which is actually perhaps what fits the government of Nigeria. That we are practicing a plutocracy, not a democracy. Because who are the people that matter in Nigeria? They are the people with the means. And a plutocracy is government by rich people for rich people. So then, of course, you have another system of government that is called theocracy, which is that is a government by divine anointing. Only those who the state, the religion, the state and heaven are basically the same realm. Then you have a system of government that focuses on patriarchy or whatever. So there are all kinds of systems. We do not yet have the institutional capacity to live and align ourselves with the principles of democracy, where you're talking about one man, one person, one vote. Well, guess what? We are living in a society where the big man's mentality suggests very clearly that A driver and his oga cannot have. Mentally, yes. And this is what you have seen now in the capacity of people with money to compromise the wishes of the people. So we are still a far cry away from the ideals of democracy being a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Ours is a pretty dysfunctional environment where most of the rules don't apply, where lawlessness and people making up their own rules as they go along is the norm of the day. And this is why religion has found itself in a toxic mix. Now, I repeat, Nigeria, the state is a dysfunctional state. It doesn't have the capacity to protect its citizens. It has not shown enough capacity to provide for its citizens. It has not shown enough capacity to prove that citizens come first. This is why you now find the importation of the divine into the political. I'm a priest and a bishop, and you may probably feel scandalized when I tell you, look, if it comes to voting for the president of Nigeria, I don't want a president who fears God, because there is no way of measuring fearing God. I want a president or a governor who fears the Nigerian voter. Unless and until we get to that point, the fear of God will continue to be imported largely as a fraudulent excuse, for stealing elections, as a fraudulent excuse for governing badly, as a fraudulent excuse for not delivering, because somehow we've come to a point in which now, rather than Nigerians focusing on holding the feet of their leaders to account, they say, well, we live and for God, because somehow God will do it for us. In a democracy, God holds the universe in the palm of his hand, but human institutions are managed by human beings. And as I said, for us, what we're trying to do in this conference today is to show what good religion can be. But right now, because of the nature of the Nigerian political environment, we're finding that religion is being conscripted into politics, with consequences both for the ordinary citizens of Nigeria and with consequences for the integrity of religion itself.
Ooh. Really strong words there, Bishop, because you find out that these same politicians are some of the most religious people, having Thanksgiving every other week in religious centers and all. But I think it's instructive, some of the words you've said, and we look forward to the discourse later today. We have to thank you once again for your interventions. We've been speaking with Bishop Matthew Kukah, Catholic Archbishop of Sokoto Diocese, founder at the Kukah Center. It's always a pleasure and an honor to speak with you, Bishop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, just slight point of correction. I'm just the ordinary bishop of Sokoto, not an archbishop. But thank you very much for having me. And your sister Maokwe will be our uncle, so I'm sure that is enough reason for. And thank you, channels, for always being with us, and other media organs.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a great day.
And you too, sir. We'll take a moment now. And when we return, we'll be speaking with our correspondent, Kelly Giga, who's somewhere in Lagos to give us live updates from, well, you'll have to wait to find out. Stay with us.
We did promise we will touch base with certain places across the nation. Lagos will be our first port of call with our correspondent. But before we bring in our correspondent, let's tell you that the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority has flagged up what they call the Ember Months Public Enlightenment Safety Corps campaign with the LASMA Female Elite Corps as part of their preparation for increased commercial activities and traffic flow on major roads. So they flagged up this as part of the campaign to ensure that the Yuletide traffic is free flow and hitch-free.
This is the Female Elite Corps, comprising of female officers in LASMA. They are taking the campaign to Lagosians, the road users. They will be visiting series of parks and garages in the state, across the 5 divisions of the state. So many people who want to put their vehicles on the road. They should be cautious. They should make sure that routine maintenance of their vehicles should be properly done at all times, because safety is key. And the whole idea about this initiative or this campaign is for people to uphold safety. Life has no duplicates. We only have one life. Because this is our legitimate duty. This is what we signed for. It's for them to be rest assured. We'll make sure that we deploy men and resources. Our men will be strategically positioned in the state to make sure that the traffic moves at all times. Likewise, we have the resources too. Vis-a-vis the recovery vehicles, we have traffic equipment, cones, channelizer, traffic barrier, and New Jersey barrier. All this equipment will be positioned in the strategic areas in the state. Also, our recovery vehicle, we have higher and lower capacity.
All right, so all-female elite squad, if you consider it that way, as they put it, they call it the LASMA Female Elite Corps. Okay, but let's touch base with our correspondent, Kelly Giga, who is in the Oshodi area of Lagos. Kelly, yesterday you brought us up to speed as to what is going on in Berger. Now you are in Oshodi. Let's get your take as to exactly what is going on right where you are.
Okay, absolutely, Jeff and Kayode. Good morning again. So our exact location, I'm reporting from the Lagos-Apapa Expressway. Some would say it's the Oshodi-Apapa Expressway, whichever one works for you. But that's our exact location. And if you're familiar with Lagos, just behind the stretch you can see there is the BRT Terminal 3. I must mention that there are actually 3 terminals. We'll get there in just a moment, subsequently as the program progresses. But here's what we're saying now. Here's what we've observed. So a year ago in Lagos, for instance, we know how the congestion and traffic was like. But that's not the story today. As you can see on this expressway on a Tuesday morning like this, it's a free flow of traffic. So, I mean, some people will argue that Tuesdays are more productive than Mondays. It has more people on the street and all of that. But it's a free flow of traffic from where we are reporting live from. Some others will argue that perhaps the cost of fuel is the reason why we have lesser vehicles on the road. So that's what it is like from our journey from Opig to Berger to Otedola Bridge, 7-Up, Ojota, Oboshoki, Alakwere, down to where we are now. It's free movement, really. But of course, who better to walk us through issues around traffic management in Lagos, Nigeria, than of course the general manager of the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency, who we have had to catch up with this morning because he's supposed to hit the streets of Lagos very, very quickly. Gian, good morning. Thank you indeed again for agreeing to speak with us. Let's begin with a general perspective of what traffic is like in Lagos right now. What's the updates for today?
Thank you so much. Earlier today, about 3 hours ago, there is an incident on 3rd Mainland Bridge. Coming from Alakwere towards the island, we have a case of a broken down truck that has been evacuated promptly. Equally, about an hour ago, we have a case of an upturned truck. A trailer laden 40-feet container upturned around Alakija on Badagry Expressway. All hands are on deck. We've equally called on other responders, vis-a-vis LRU and fire service, for us to recover the vehicle. We equally have another case around Ahmadiyya Abule Egbasis. An empty container got stuck in the drainage. Evacuation is ongoing as well. So far, so good today. But yesterday, we recorded a major incident on 3rd Mainland Bridge by Ilaje, between the waterfront, moving towards Yanoworo, involving 2 vehicles, 2 mass transit buses. We have about 4 casualties, but we acted promptly. We call on Lasema, LRU, Lasambos, and the fire service. So it was timely. We were able to rescue all the injured people in the vehicle, and they were taken away by Lagos State ambulance services.
All right, so I mean, fantastic and great. So we know that, some persons may be wondering why we have a lot of females at your back now. So let's speak very quickly about this campaign. You touched areas such as Ojota and K2 yesterday. What's the plan for today? Where are you taking your female corps to today?
Yes, the female elite corps are part of our Ember Month campaign in the agency. They are to move around the whole stretch of Lagos, the 5 divisions, to take the traffic gospel. On why the people should obey traffic rules and regulations in the state, and why they should always oppose safety, because safety is germane to everybody. Yesterday, we started with a royal blessing from Oba of Lagos. After that, they moved to Ketu and Ojota. Today, they will be going to Ina Ikorodu, starting from Ikorodu Garage, Odogion, and all the houses. They are going to visit the motor parks and garages. We are taking the message direct to them. As we all know, we're going to have a lot of convergence in the states. People will come abroad and within the country to Lagos because of this period. So we are dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's to make sure that they have a seamless movement during the unitary period and beyond. We're going to deploy human and material resources. Our men has been strategically positioned always. We are going to rejig the system. We equally mobilize our recovery vehicles. Vis-a-vis, tow truck, low bed, crane, and all sorts. And we're going to deploy traffic equipment too, to strategic locations too. All these are part of the trajectory to make sure that people have a seamless movement in Lagos.
For those who may be concerned and asking, why are you using the females? Why are you using your female elite corps? What's the idea about using the females to drive this message of safety during the Yuletide?
The motive is deliberate. We all know people always have a lot of respect for the female gender. They are our mothers, they are our sisters. They can touch mind of men. It's deliberate. So by the time they appeal to drivers, they talk to drivers, they talk to their senses why they should obey traffic rules. It is geared towards achieving voluntary compliance from the motorists, so that all of us we can have a safe road in the state.
Jim, two more questions before I let you go. I understand there's a toll-free number for Lagosians who need to reach you very quickly as possible. What's that number? And finally, I also like you to look straight into this camera and give Lagosians some sort of assurances of just how safe they are in this period, this festive period. It's going to be very busy. They're going to be traveling. What's the message of assurance from the agency? What's the message of assurance to Lagosians who reside, or Nigerians who reside here in Lagos, that LASMA officials will be friendly, they will not harass them, and all of that?
Earlier this year, we started with an aggressive training and retraining, reorientation of our men, so that we can have better part of them, so that they will be able to do their job without any harassment of Lagosians, the taxpayers. What is important to us, we are working towards the LASMA that will perform our job cautiously, with a lot of empathy. And I'm equally giving people in the state the assurance that we are ready for them. We are giving them an assurance that they will have seamless movement. There's going to be free flow of traffic. We promise them there's going to be a great improvement in their travel time. Likewise, in case of any traffic incidents, we'll be prompt in making sure that we'll recover and clear any incident on the road.
The toll-free number?
The toll-free line, it was established July 9 to be precise this year. The motive is for us to get feedback from the motoring public, Lagosians, so that they can reach us and tell us their experience. Even if there is congestion and emergency anywhere, they can equally get back to us. The number is 080 000 527862, and they can reach us via our mother's tongue, which is English. They can equally communicate with us through Yoruba and Pidgin.
All right. General Manager of the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency, thank you indeed for your time on the program. Wish you all the best as you take this safety campaign to the streets of Lagos, mainland and island. Of course, wish your female elite corps members all the best. Thank you so much. Have a great time, ladies. So that's what it is right here at the Oshodi Apapa Expressway. Any moment from now, we will go to the terminal and get to see for ourselves what it is like, the BRT arrangement there. There are three terminals at the Oshodi area. It's a major and a very busy part of Lagos. We'll get to see exactly how things are faring. But for now, it's a free flow of traffic. For those who are unable to perhaps drive or use the commercial buses, we have seen a lot of persons, a lot of movement, a lot of walking on the road. We're not sure why. I tried to ask a few about just why are you working this morning? Some say their offices are not far away from here because they had to get to the bus stop and then just have to use their legs to their offices. Back to you guys.
Thank you for your reporting, Kelly, and we hope that by that interaction, of course, you have helped us to inform Nigerians, Lagosians, about how to get on their way and, which routes to take and which routes to avoid. Kelly Agiga there, reporting from Oshodi. I will return to Kelly as soon as there's more to tell. But from traffic management, let's move now to events management. We're looking at the skills, opportunities, strategies for career growth, particularly for Nigeria's burgeoning youth population, of course, who are already, arming themselves with so many other, opportunities in many different fields. But what are the opportunities contained in events management? Let's have this conversation with Adenike, Dr. Adenike Akinyemi. She's the CEO, Colony Events and Designs, and Ambassador, African Union. She joins us here in our Lagos studio. And you do look like an event.
Thank you.
So it's December, right?
Yes.
And one of the questions that we've been asking time and again on the show is, what will December look like? Will it be dirty, as we say towards the end of the year? Will it be clean? But for events managers, planners, it appears it's going to be, a full December where you're cashing to the bank. Tell us about it. What's it looking like?
December is usually the busiest, among them in the months when we have events. Over the years, you realize that Nigerians, we don't joke with events when it comes to December, because a lot of companies, they host their end of year parties, families come from abroad to celebrate. So December is always like the in thing for event planners. If you're having like 4 events in the other months, in December you can have actually like triple of that. So sometimes you have about 12 events in December, which means that it's already dated December. So December is looking great already.
Really?
Yes.
So what's the value, and I hope you'll be honest with us, I'll be open enough. Yeah. What's the value of one event in December for an average events planner? Okay,
so it depends, right? I don't want to mention numbers now because it's diverse. There is no static prices to these things. But it depends on, the scope of the event, whether small scale, large scale. But on an average, let's say maybe for an end of the year party, a company can decide to spend about 20 million just to celebrate their workers for doing so much during the, and that also, encompasses the caterers, the DJ, the band. It's not just the event planning cashing out to the bank now, because the event planner is the one who brings everyone together and then disperse this money to all the other vendors.
So what's the percentage of the profit that goes to the events planner? Let's say for an event worth 20 million, as you've mentioned.
Right. So now for event planners, it also depends. It's not, an agreed price. We don't have a static price for everyone. Some charge as low as 10%. Some will just tell you I will charge 20% on every transaction. So there is no static price on event planning. We don't have that space where we say, all event planners must charge this particular price. So it depends on your brand. It depends on how you think you're worth before you can charge your clients.
It's interesting. You'd almost think Bukola is considering a career in that. But it just speaks to the opportunities in that sector. By the way, any of those events that you're doing 20M and all, clearly the events they'll go all out, right? In terms of food, refreshment, band, and the rest, right? So maybe you can let us know those events, because there'll be jollof. So let us know when those events are holding so we can attend for the jollof. But let's talk about the opportunities. It's a value chain, right? Because it's important to also help people see that, hey, this is a viable space, right? So what are the value chains in the event industry? Perhaps a young person is out there thinking, what can I do? So what are those opportunities there?
Okay, right. So event planning has, is a multi-billion business in Nigeria. And you realize that a lot of planners come into the industry, they think, okay, what can I do? It's diverse. There are different opportunities. But the first thing is you need to understand the scope of the industry. Now we have event planning. So event industry is not just about event planners only. We have the event planners, we have the decorators, we have the rental companies, we have the DJs. Now entertainment, we have DJ, we have band, we have the MCs.
You have hype men.
Yes, we have hype men.
And you have someone that plays that drum.
Exactly. So, it is diverse. There's a lot of opportunities that we have. Yes, that's under coordination. So that's under event planning as well. But We also have the technical part of it. We have people who handle the hybrid events. We have technology. Events planning is a very wide space. So it has to do with you understanding the scope. Maybe you want to be a caterer, you want to be a rental company. In fact, over the years, I realized that people who do event planning, sometimes when they come for training, because I have a training school, and they will learn event planning and decoration, because that's what we do. And after they've learned this, they'll just tell me, Mama, I don't think I can cope with this. It's too wide. And then they say, I want to create a niche. So after you understand the scope of the industry, the next thing is for you to create a niche. That what am I good at? There are so many opportunities. It's so wide, and so you can pick up and say, okay, I want to be a balloon artist. I want to just handle small events.
And just that will earn you good money.
Like every other weekend, because there's always a birthday celebration.
And they always need balloons.
Exactly. So sometimes in a week we have 4 events in a week. So imagine that like an average event planner will have at least 2 events in a month. So in a year, you're having about, let's say, 24 events. And
no, December is times 3.
So December is usually times 3.
So that's like 16 in total.
Exactly. So you have a vendor having 16 events in December. It's very possible because we all have a lot of celebrations. So now you create a niche for yourself. And after creating a niche, the next thing that you want to do is get certifications for it, because every other person can come up and say, I want to be an event planner. But what stands you out is the certifications that you get, the skill that you get. Okay, I want to be a caterer. You just don't come into catering because you know how to cook. You have to learn how to cook, because sometimes your presentation is all that matters. I mean, you go to a party, you see some caterers, the way they package their food. In fact, it's already appealing to you to even come to eat. Unlike when you go to other local parties and they just pour the rice and the stew together. I wouldn't even be able to eat that food because it's not even looking good already. So these things, you have to learn the skills. So there is catering, so you create a niche for yourself. That, okay, what am I good at? What's the opportunity I can get from this? In fact, I have somebody that the only thing the person does is just, to rent sound to lighting companies. So the event space is big and there is room for everybody. If you can think out of the box and say, okay, from this particular industry, what can I pick out from it? You must be able to think and say, okay, this industry, I'm into decorations, but I don't want to do weddings. I have a friend who does only burials, and she's cashing out because every day somebody dies.
And it's the fact of life. I mean, there's no hard feelings. It's what it is.
Exactly. So you create your niche, you get certified for it, and then you build strong networks.
There you go.
Because in this industry, your network is your net worth.
Okay, so we'll explore this more, some of the challenges as well. Okay. But since we're talking about a lot of food and stuff, let's go over to the food basket of the nation. We have our correspondent, Pius Angbo, who is live for us in Benue State. Pius, we're counting down to Christmas, and I wonder for you if Benue feels like Christmas just yet. But speak to us where you are. What is going on there, Pius?
Well, thank you, Kaide, for coming to me in Benue today. If you look to my right, these IDPs are gathered sharing a bag of rice for the families of IDPs in the camp here. People are beginning to think festivity in Benue. People are beginning to feel concerned that they need to meet certain needs, that they will take care of their families' festive needs, and that's what is happening for this IDP here in Aishoa camp, IDP camp in North Bank. The story has been that for the past 6 years, they've been living here after the 2018 New Year attacks that left 73 persons dead in Logo and Goma local government. This is one of the IDP camps hosting the IDPs. At the point, there were up to 34,000 IDPs here. But you see, every other day, aid agencies, government officials bringing food to support them to feed. But it's not going to be enough if somebody is donating food items to you. Compared to when you cultivate them and make them, because it's the food basket of the nation. Men, able-bodied men here, women are all idle because they can't go back to their farmlands where the cultivation of food that feeds the nation, that makes Benue the food basket, happens. If you go from the boundary with Nasarawa to Makodi, which is the headquarters, there's just one local government called Goma. It's almost deserted farm-wise. Nobody is farming, cultivating as we used to. Same thing in Zaki Biangukum because of bandits and herdsmen are attacked there. You have these problems spread around 20, up to 20 of the local governments out of 23 we have in Benue. So it's a precarious situation because food inflation has risen so high, up to 21.8% as at 2022.
So, Pius, it's interesting to note that for 6 years, the men there and the women there haven't been productive. Maybe you could, clarify that a bit again. But tell us about what the conditions of living in the camp, look like.
At the start of this IDP camp, people here were using mosquito nets, and I will show you a bit of what it now looks. Before now, people were using mosquito nets and Kukahs to just live under until IOM and Doctors Without Borders stepped in to begin to construct this tent you are seeing now. That has given them a bit of improvement. So yes, it is Harmattan season right now, and they have some form of better shelter than it used to be. But this can be said is a dignified form of living for anybody who is in distress, because one, they are dealing with many problems ranging from health issues to feeding to even the psychological displacement problem they have, then top of their productivity. So if they have better than these, I've spoken with a couple of them on ground here, they said that they would rather have to determine their fate than people coming to give to them, government coming to promise them and all of that. That is what is going on right now. As you can see, they are just sharing, if I can have a quantity of that, less than a mudu is what a family is getting from this sharing that is going on right now.
So for the children, Pius, has there been any program for continuing education for them in 6 years? Or have they also been, loitering about the camp in 6 years?
I know that in 2022, when I did a story on the education for IDPs, children, there was this collaboration between the Ministry of Education, State Universal Basic Education, and some NGOs who began to put the little children in groups, in cluster classes for primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, and they were teaching them, preparing them for BK exam, what you call basic junior exam. So they were doing that as at 2022, but I can't tell you right now that that is still going on. I wouldn't know the state of things right now, but all here that you look at, because on the IDP camp there, you will see the section set out for school. But here that I'm talking to you, I haven't seen one in this IDP camp. So perhaps they may be attending, there's an LGA primary school across the road when you're going to University of Agriculture here. That's where I think the students are going to school. But the point government has done now is to introduce free education for all pupils in primary schools in Benue State. So they can have access to education free of charge, which is what is happening in public schools in Benue today. So the issue of cost may have been removed from the IDP parents, so their children are able to attend the basic primary schools that we have around this camp, because this one is within the state capital.
Well, Pius, thank you for your reporting. One can only imagine what kind of Christmas they will have. But our correspondent, Pius Ango, reporting live from Akodi, the Benue State capital. Thank you, Pius, and please get back to us as soon as you have more. Well, let's continue with our conversation. And these are the realities. These are the things that add up, right? And eventually you want to buy food as maybe a caterer. Right. And you see that food is expensive. Right. It's a no-brainer, really. People who are meant to go to farms are not in farms, they're in IDP camps. So these things just trickle down. Right. But now to the challenges, naturally, because cost is usually a big deal when it comes to events. Imagine you hosted an event 2 years ago and you spent, just hypothetically, 50 naira. This year, if you want to host an event, same event, even smaller event, you hear 200 naira. And I'm using that just so I don't expose your trade secret. So what are some of the challenges?
Let's be humble about it.
Let's be humble, right? So what are some of the challenges that the event industry faces? And what are some of the government policies you're hoping can help to ease that sector so that young people can come in the more and make a living from it?
Right. So the first challenge is economic instability. This year has been tough on a lot of event practitioners because, like you said, the prices that we buy things are like triple the price. Before you go to China with maybe like, 100 million. Now, if you want to buy something worth 100 million, you spend about 500 million. It's ridiculous. The amount we use in clearing goods, it has tripled in price. And a lot of people are complaining. To even feed has been tough. Caterers are complaining the amount they buy pepper, that, okay, is this dollar thing also affecting pepper? They can't understand it. But you will realize that even these farmers need their equipment. And then it goes back into the end product, why things get expensive. People will say, oh, why are the eggs expensive? But the chicken feed is what boils down into the eggs that are being produced. So it has to go up in price. So one of the challenges is economic instability, and we really hope that the government can do something about it. This dollar rate thing, it's really killing the business because most of the things we use are imported. And another challenge that we have is logistics. Hike in prices of transportation to get to your venue, it is crazy. Now, sometimes before you can rent trucks, as maybe like from mainland. Let's say your warehouse is in the mainland, and then you want to get to island. Sometimes before you spend like 100,000 for a full truck, but now the truck companies will charge you 250,000. So if you're spending only 250,000 naira on transportation alone, then how much would you charge your clients? Now the client will tell you, oh, my salaries have not been increased. I still earn the same thing I earned last year. I can't pay more. So these challenges, boils down into the fact that we are making lesser profit now because of the economic instability. Another challenge that we face is time management. Event planners are usually very busy because sometimes you're running like 4 projects at the same time, and then you have to manage all the clients. Another challenge that we face is staffing. Our events, we call our workers soldier go, soldier come in this industry because they don't get to stay because of the amount you pay them in salaries. You only have about, let's say you have a staff strength of like 20. You have contract staff about 17, and then your permanent staff are just like 3. So those contract staffs, you have a contract with them that, you work 6 months, by the time you get better, but you realize that most of them want better in life. So once they learn the skill, they feel like they can stand on their own. I'm now an event planner. Oh, I've been with her for 3 months, and they want to go start their own business. So staffing is one of the major problems that we also face. But to be honest, the major thing that is happening right now in Nigeria is the economic instability, and we really hope that the government can do something about it so that prices get better.
You couldn't have said that, in a better way, and we hope that the message is taken. But you said something very important earlier on about how training sets, the professional events planner apart from, the ones that are not being trained. So for someone asking the question, how do I get the certification? How long do I need to, what amount am I spending? So put them through.
Okay, so now I'll focus on event planning because I don't know about the other industry. But if you want to get into the event space, it is wide. But let's say event planning, I own an event training school, Colony Events Academy, and we have the likes of Zafara Events. We have, in fact, I'm in an association called APWEM. I'm the financial secretary at the moment, and we have an affiliation with Lagos Business School where you can actually train, and become a certified event planner. So these things, even abroad, we can get certified, just for you to go online, check the schools that are available. But the honest truth is, if you're doing business and you don't, get the skill, you just because you're an ordinary person, you're not able to build that unique selling points. Then that makes your customer keeps coming back to you. How to do things professionally, it's very important, and that's why you have to train on it. Anybody can come up and say, oh, I know how to do events. It's not just to put tables and chairs together. It's beyond that. I hear a lot of people say, what are planners even doing? It's always funny because it's when you own the event, sometimes you have problems with weather forecast. So we are called fixers. You must fix it. Because like a week before the event, you've already checked your weather. Right. It's looking good.
You're going to get a rainmaker.
Thank you. But on the day of the event, it starts to drizzle. But you have to make the magic happen because your clients must not be under the rain. This is why we also have to deal with, building relationships with your colleagues. As an event person, you must build relationships. You must be able to call someone and say, please, I need a tent, like right now. And he must be able to get to you.
I need to ask a very important question, really. And it's this. I'm asking on behalf of a lot of people.
Right.
Why don't some of us get jollof rice on event days?
Why do they walk past us, some of us?
Why? You sit in a very conspicuous place. You are dressed well. You don't look at them, but you can see them. You don't want to look like you're hungry.
Past you. Now,
why?
So now this is where coordination comes in the event space. As an event planner, you have ushers that you work with, you have coordinators. Now, you think they are passing, they're not. They've been assigned to tables to serve.
And there's one woman always taking them past you. Like, come to my table.
That's the coordinator. So
no, it's not a coordinator.
Maybe the usher that you were eyeing
is
assigned to another table, So there's somebody to serve your table. So you're supposed to wait for your turn to get your jollof rice.
So how do I...
No, but the person has obviously passed, my table.
No, I'm sure another person has been dedicated to your table.
So what do we do? Once I get in, I'll ask, who is the usher assigned to this table?
Exactly.
Because you look like I'm
okay, for an example, let's say we have a 500 guest event. And for a 500 guest event, I always advise, our clients to get 20 ushers so that you can divide the tables. I mean, so that's one usher is handling about, let's say, 4 tables. Exactly. So that usher will take care of your table at the next table. So you have to wait for your turn to get the jollof rice. You cannot serve the 4 tables at the same time.
The person has obviously skipped my table. It happens.
So there's this particular woman, and as I said earlier, that is always taking them past you. You can always.
That's a coordinator.
It's not a coordinator. The person is wearing the gele for the wife's family.
It doesn't matter. Coordinator.
Back to the conversation. What are the obvious perks that come with getting certification?
Okay.
Yeah.
To become again?
The benefits, the perks that come with getting a certification.
Yes, certifications help you get professional in your field. Event planning is a career. It's not just a hobby. So you getting certified stands you out, is what makes your customers keep coming back to you, because they know that you do it right, you do it professionally. It's not just about you calling a Arisi and Baba Fela to come and organize your party. As an event planner, you put proper processes in place, you have your meetings before the event, you already map out your designs, you do your mood board, you do your floor plan. So event planning is beyond just coming together, hosting an event. You must get certified because it creates you to have your unique selling points. And when you have this unique selling proposition, that's when your clients know that, okay, this person is good at this thing that he's doing. And
so, quick question, what's December looking like, at least?
December is looking good already.
Good.
Yes.
And earlier you were talking about government policy and you're not making profits.
Nigerians always find a way, right?
These challenges are there, but doesn't mean that
I'm wondering whether we should continue to trust you.
The challenges are there, obviously, but I mean, you being the professional that you have been doing this for 13 years.
Right, so you always find a way.
Exactly. So you already have the ideas of how to put things together and make it work still.
All right. So very, very instructive conversation, and we've learned quite a lot. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We've been chatting with Dr. Adenike
Akinyemi, the CEO, Colony Events and Designs.
Yes, please. Thank you.
And so we'll take a moment now. When we return, wait for it, we have another very interesting conversation. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Today is, of course, the day we mark and celebrate and pay attention to persons living with disability. And that's why we brought them to the fore to have this conversation, because once every year they are brought to the fore to see what the challenges and the struggles are and how the community can aggregate to help and support and make them feel welcome at all times. We've been joined in our Lagos studio by Mrs. Esther Samuel, crops and aquaculture farmer and founder of Wemisco Adex Ventures, a member of the NWAPDI in Lagos. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
You're welcome. Good morning.
And we also have joining us via Zoom, David Ayenle, SA Persons with Disability to the Governor, Chairman, Abia State Commission for Welfare of Disabled Persons, and Executive Director, Center for Citizens with Disability. Mr. David, thank you so much for coming on the program as well. Yes, just to help us unmute. Okay, let's start with you, madam. Every year we have this day, we pay attention to persons with disability.
Okay.
But maybe you can tell us your personal story, because that's the idea. Sometimes the best way to follow a story is to follow a character. But in this case, this character is real life, real experience. Maybe you tell us your story.
Actually, like I told you earlier, my name's Esther Samuel. Being disability is through accidents. I got this accident a very long year ago. Thank God I'm alive today. I was told then that I was the only surviving soul with 18 people off. So that's where I found myself. And I cannot just sit down doing nothing. So I now discover where to move ahead to. Thank God I find farming I believe because I retired, or I should say set up, I work in so many companies before I become a farmer. But thank God, joining farming, I did not see any regret.
So where were you working before? So you retired from where? And what were you doing where you were working? And where was this accident as well?
Bogon. I was coming from Ogbomoso.
Okay.
That's where I got the accident. Okay. So that's where I find myself.
So you say you were working where?
Cocoa industry.
What?
Cocoa industry.
Okay, in the cocoa industry.
Ikeja. Then.
So how has it been for a person living with disability in terms of the farming experience? What's the challenge? Because that's the idea of this conversation.
It's not easy.
Tell
you
us.
Can see the way I manage to clamp up. It's not easy, but instead of one to just sit down at home, maybe depending on someone, just have to keep the life moving. Farming, with the situation of the country now, it's not easy. It's not easy. Maybe in agriculture, in any aspect of farming, we really need the government help. Like this season, this year, every farmers are lamenting because the stopping of rain just stopped unexpectedly. Like I'm talking to you now, the one I have more than 4 acres. I cannot get, in fact, I cannot get anything from it. Dry, everything dry up. The one that's, because you cannot plant once, you plant gradually. Even the one that made the season of that little rainfall we have, thief, they came in and smashed everything. So in terms of security, in terms of assisting, we all need government help.
And that's why we're having this conversation. We hope that there'll be increased assistance for persons living with disability. Okay. Let me come to you now, Mr. Anyele. Since 2019, when the Bill on Persons for the Protection of Persons with Disability became law, bring us up to speed with some of the progress, and challenges that are still in the path of, the rights of persons with disability to, living productively. What are the progresses that we have made, and what are the challenges that remain?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Charles, for focusing on today, International Day for Persons with Disabilities. You've been our lead champion in promoting the rights of people with disabilities across the country. So in 2019, January 17th, we secured the assent of the president on the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Provision Act. That ended the 18-year struggle to secure a law that will protect people with disabilities from discrimination and other harmful practices. Taking us 18 years to secure it means that we are going to struggle much more to secure implementation, knowing fully well the nature of our environment, the nature of the Nigerian state. And that nature of the Nigerian state promotes exclusion, discrimination on the grounds of disability. Political actors struggle much more to appreciate the role and responsibilities on their part in ensuring that no one is left behind, either in democracy, governance, economic, or social participation. Therefore, the situation we find ourselves now is that we have gotten the law, we've gotten the commission, persons with disabilities at the national, at the state level also, like my state, we have at the state commission for people with disabilities. Having said that, we've not gotten to where we are going. Where we are going is a state where all barriers against people with disabilities are removed. Where we are going is that we have access to social infrastructure. We have access to economic activities. Look at the story my comrade is speaking about her farming business and her disability. When programs of the government do not target specific people with disabilities, knowing fully well that their ability to participate is breached by barriers, then it is the responsibility of the state to pay attention on issues that concern them. So where we are now is the era where we are commanding for enforcement. because the law provides a moratorium for 5 years. And that 5 years is that all public institutions must be made accessible to people with disabilities. All government program activities must be made accessible to people with disabilities. All government policies and programs must have a section that speaks on disability issues. Because one of the greatest barriers people with disabilities faces every day is institutional barrier. And what is institutional barrier? Institutional barrier stems from changing norms, changing values from state on how they relate with disability by policy, by law, or by guidelines that support what they do and how they do it. So when such guidelines, when such policy, when such law are not being implemented, or they are not there at all, are not being enacted, then institutional barrier is being made against people with disabilities. And it is the state that is creating this institutional barrier. That is why what we are doing in Abia State is to remove all manner of institutional barrier that will hinder people with disabilities from participating in program activities of the government on equal basis with others, by ensuring that Abia State disability law is implemented, by ensuring that people will participate in leadership, which is the grand norm of His Excellency Dr. Choma Oti. That is explicit. That people with disabilities must be able to lead in issues that concern them. And that is the only way they can say that they are included in governance.
All right, absolutely. We're impressed by some of those interventions you've reeled out. I'm sure you are a testament to that effect as well. But we did talk about touching base with our correspondents who are all over the country to bring us up to speed with what's going on the streets ahead of the Yuletide. Kelly Agiga, we get back to him in a moment. Okay, he's standing by already. Yes, that is the Oshodi terminal. Kelly, we can see you. Exactly what is going on where you are.
Yes, Jeff, Bukola, Kayode, this is the Terminal 3 at the Oshodi BRT Lagos, and it's a very busy terminal. I said that. Let's see if we can just show our viewers what it is like right here. We've been confronted by the Chief Security Officer of the terminal not to film, but we've told him this is a public place and we have to show Nigerians what exactly is playing out here. But compared to yesterday, the great news is that at the Terminal 3 right here at the Oshodi BRT, there is a shade for commuters, for Lagosians who are trying to make their way to their businesses. So there's a shade here for them. You can see some are not in the sun. These ones are under this very massive shade. There's also a place for commuters to sit while they wait for their BRT bus. So you can see that this is like a waiting space, and that's why you can see these commuters right here seated, perhaps until when it is time for them to make their way to their places, when it's their trip, their scheduled trip, of course. So that's what it is here. Some are seated waiting, some are standing. But the big deal is that some other persons are also standing. Some other persons are also standing. Well, somehow in the shade, but some are right under the sun. No thanks to the sun. I mean, there's a shade provided for them. I must say, credit to the Lagos State government. There's a shade provided for them, but somehow the sun has stretched to where these ones are standing. Let's see if we can quickly do that for our viewers all around the world. It's a busy terminal. The Oshodi area right here, Lagos, Nigeria, and the continent is a very, very busy space. So that's why you can see this number of persons right here ready to get their trips to their various places of destination. I mean, you know how affordable these rates are, but the bad news, the sad news is that some of them would have to stand, would have to wait here, and they've been waiting like this for quite some time. We had got to one or two persons who were ready to share their views with us. We'll get in one person very quickly in just a moment. But I must also mention this. The reason why this is so busy is that it's a connecting point. It's a connecting point. So that's why it has a lot of commuters right here at the Oshodi terminal. I'm not sure, sir, you want to share your views with us live on TV? All right. So that's what it is, guys. Right here at the Terminal 3 of Oshodi Terminal. Someone had agreed to speak with us. Let's see if we can catch him. He's about entering his bus now. So how long, what's your name, what's your destination, how long have you been waiting?
My name is Daniel. Well, I've been waiting for like 45 minutes, you understand? So at times, where I live in First Stack, you understand? Before they will say 6 o'clock, but at times we stay there like 7, 8 before the bus comes, you understand? So a little bit disappointment there. And 11th is also, when I'm going home, you understand, we have a little bit, we have like 400 passengers, but delay will be there. You understand? Before the buses come, they waste our time. So that delay, let them use time factor. If it's 7, let buses come start by 7. You understand? That's the experience I've been having for some time now.
All right, thank you so much. I have a safe trip. So that's what it is right here. I don't know why the CSO is taking my own picture now. He has tried to prevent me from filming. But that's what it is here, guys, everyone. Back to you guys.
Yes, if you can hear me, Kelly, it's okay. It's a busy scene where you are. We have more questions for you, but we wonder if we have time to take those questions. We'll get back to Kelly and see how efficient that system, continues to be. But as we return to the studio now, let's continue the conversation here in the studio with you, ma'am. We empathize with you, and we, can only imagine some of the challenges that you are going through. But as a person with disability, how has your life changed significantly? How have you been able to, manage with your daily activities, particularly since the accident that altered your normal routine?
Thank you. Like I told you earlier, it's not easy. I need to move from one friend to another to assist. Because the person that assists you today, you not expect that person to continue again. So you just have to. Thank God. When I joined this association, this farmer association, in one place or the other, in one way or the other, they assisted me too. But it's not easy. It's not easy. Maybe in terms of going to the market to buy 1 or 2 things for my fish feed, it's not easy. You can see I have a bandage on me that I use that to support me to move around. So we want this time around the government should come to our aid.
And then farming as a person with disability, I know it will be challenging. What methods of farming do you deploy?
Crops, and like I told you, agriculture, fishery. I need assistance. I have a label that I pay for two people that will assist me. My own is to oversee their jobs. Like the crops, I told you earlier, more than 2 acres. So I move around, I go there. Not all the time, but at times the body will not be able to move. But you just have to, with one support or the other, we go around to check.
So are your yields enough to enable you pay those whom you deploy on the farm?
I can't tell
to help you?
No, that's why I make use of wages per day.
So how has the association helped to improve your yield, your earnings, even some of the materials that you require for farming? What are the opportunities that have come as a result of?
We are still waiting. Keep on promising. I have not achieved anyone, but they keep on promising us, and I pray by this government of it will favor us.
Okay, perhaps Mr. Anyele will be able to speak to some of the challenges of our guests here in the studio. Let's come to Mr. Anyele. You spoke about quite a number of interventions and how we're not yet where we need to be as far as the impact of the legislation is concerned. Speaking of which, what engagements is the association carrying out with governments, both at the federal and at the state level? And what sense are you getting of interventions for persons with disability?
At the national level, we are not seeing a deliberate policy that set aside either a quota or a percentage dedicated to SME-related activities of people with disabilities. So what you see is that when there is a national intervention, either economic rollback or otherwise, people with disabilities and the association begin to write letters, begin to demand for inclusion. At the end of the day, by the time the program has finished, people with disabilities may not get. At the state level also, this is what is happening in other states as well. But here in United States, what we've done so far is because there is an office for persons with disabilities, the commission is to engage different commissioners, different heads of agencies that are rolling out or distributing economic empowerment programs, especially it has to do with SME, where we are able to ensure that persons with disabilities who are participating in economic activities benefit from government grants, benefit from government loan. The 1 billion loan that was shared to SMEs in the state will make sure that people with disabilities participate who are interested in benefiting. The SMEs grants from the federal and the state that are being rolled out to entrepreneurs, and we ensure that people with disabilities participate. This can only be made meaningful or scaled up when state governments are deliberate in identifying individuals to coordinate their activities around ensuring inclusion and participation of people with disabilities in government program activities. Where that is not available, government will struggle much more in ensuring that they are not left behind. And let me tell you, when there is poverty, it hits people with disabilities much more. When there is either a natural disaster or climate changes, there is hunger in the land, it is people with disabilities that bears the greatest brunt. What that means is that effort should be made by states at all levels to identify, to ensure that the program from the conceptualization to implementation has a mechanism that tracks the extent people with disabilities benefit. Where such is missing, such program will exclude people with disabilities. You will see them keep on crying. And I'm glad that at the national level, there is National Commission for Persons with Disabilities that is coordinating government program activities at national level, as well as the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on special needs and equal opportunity. Where these offices are functioning maximally, what that means is that they will be tracking, monitoring program of different ministry, department agencies that are aimed at alleviating poverty.
We're totally out of time, Ms. Anyele. If you can hear me, Ms. Anyele, we're totally out of time. I know you have a lot to say, but the luxury of time is perhaps what we don't have. We must thank you so much, and we're happy these issues are brought to the fore today, which is a day to pay attention to people living with disability across the world and in Nigeria. David Anyele is the SA Persons with Disabilities to Governor Alex Otti of Abia State and the Chairman Abia Commission for Welfare of Disabled Persons. Also, we have in our studio, Lagos studio, Esther Samuel, crops and aquaculture farmer and founder of Wemisco Adex Ventures. Thank you both, for coming on the program. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
All right, so we will now switch gears to Rivers State. We're heading to Eleme, not Port Harcourt this time. Of course, you know the incidents of pollution that has happened due to activities of international oil companies. Remediation efforts ongoing. IPREP is responsible for all of that. Our correspondent, Deborah Balama, is in Eleme to bring us up to speed. Deborah, I can see you on site. Maybe walk us through what we are seeing behind you and what exactly is the progress report.
Area in River State, and where we are is a medium risk remediation site where they are trying to clean both the underground water as well as the remediating the environment in its entirety. And IPREP actually says that they have about over 100 of such projects ongoing. I myself have been to some of them, but I have a technical person here who is in charge of this site, who is the remediator, who'll be able to walk us through what is going on this site. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. How's work going?
Well, the work is fine from the look of things you can see. We are already doing some remediation work, activities ongoing. You can see the technology that the contractor is doing. We have the area of excavation, we have the area of the bar sparging area. Based on the site characterization, there were areas from the plume where we have a solid on the ground. So they have to excavate the area so that the solid can be removed. Then the area where we have the dissolve phase, where the carbon dissolve into water, where you're using the bar sparging technology to actually take off that. And that's what we're doing here.
But before we go to what is happening now, walk us through what it was before. Before you started remediating, what was this environment like?
Well, the environment was devastated. So many things happened. If you plant, the farmers could not go to farm. their crops were not growing because of the oil spill that happened some years back in this area. Actually, this is a pipeline right of way of the pipeline of the MPHC, where what we're dealing with here is a refined product, and actually that has happened and it has spilled into the ground, so nothing was happening here. So we're trying to see how we can revive the environment suitable for use. That's why we are using the biotechnology, bioremediation process for this process.
All right, let's look at when you say medium risk, what does that entail? Because I know they have the normal risk, the medium and the high risk. When you say medium risk, what do you exactly mean by medium risk? So that we can walk them through that.
IPREP has categorized the sites into 3 categories. We started with the low risk site, where the contamination was just within the soil. It did not get to groundwater. Then the semi-medium risk site, which is the SMRO site, is where we're dealing with both soil and groundwater issues. So we have the complex site, which is another very heavy one, where if you go, you will see a very visible oil flowing both surface, groundwater, and in soil. So the semi-medium risk site are sites that are contaminated, but to a certain extent. So we categorize our site into 3 categories. So that's where we go about it.
So after the underground remediation, what happens? Can people now be able to get water, draw water without it being contaminated? Tell us what this will entail when it's done.
Well, actually, after the whole process, the land will be fit for purpose. All those activities that we're talking about can now start. We can start come and farm. They can come and do whatever thing they used to do before that they could not do again. And now that the water will be clean. And you know, what we are working on is an international standard where both the water and the soil will be taken to an international lab, where the lab will confirm that this soil is clean and is fit for purpose. Activity can go on and all that.
So how many of such projects is going in Ogali right now in Eleme local government?
Well, within this area, we have about 15 sites. As you're coming, you can see some along the way with 15 different contractors with different technologies. You know, we started with the site characterization. Site characterization is a study. It's a study where you know the kind of contaminant that is in that environment, the level of contamination, and then the right technologies to be applied. You understand? So that is what happened. Now we are not at the remediation stage. And that's why, like I said earlier, this contractor has 2 sections. They have the excavated area. This was a pool of oil, a plume, where the oil settled on the ground. That's why we need to remove the soil so that we can have access to the solid and remove the solid over there. That's the first time where those things that was recovered from there.
I think we should take the camera that way so that they can see the larger picture there.
Deborah, we must...
that first tank there.
Yeah, if we could button, Deborah, we can see the efforts being made by IPREP and some of the things you're reporting. Of course, this is an ongoing conversation. It will take a lot of years and lots of funds to be able to get that back to its place. But we're grateful to see that some efforts are ongoing in Eleme, in Rivers State. Back here in the studio, guys.
Definitely.
What's going on?
We have to anchor at this point. Quite a show we've had, but we have to, of course, tell you that His Royal Majesty Oba Tejosho is not able to join us. He's seated, actually, ready for us, but we'll have him tomorrow in his splendor and majesty. So not to worry. His Royal Majesty Oba Tejosho, the Oshile of Okeono-Egba, will be joining us tomorrow. We'll talk about his life, give you a different twist to the traditional institution. So not to worry. But we have to anchor at this point, guys. Someone sent in a tweet, one of the tweets we got, particularly for the conversation around parties.
The post on X.
Exactly. That you know what? For those who don't get rice at parties, this user has an advice. He says, guys, to get the best from servers next time, just keep like 2,000 naira. That's 1K each for 2 servers with their eyes chew well. Your table.
That's me paying for the food, man.
Exactly.
What's the point?
So
why did I go all the way to the party?
But this user, Yomi D 411, says your table go full past celebrant's own, and be sure to bless the servers after, not before. So I don't know how that works. I don't know if I'll be trying it.
I wish you had more time. I wanted to find out from Bukola, why do women not give tips like men do?
have you subjected that to empirical study,
Bukola,
Jeffrey?
is a question.
No.
When last did you give it?
When last did you give it to Bukola?
That question rests on a faulty logic. It's
Bukola,
not.
when last did you give a tip?
It's not correct.
Bukola, when last did you find
I'm not going to answer that question.
Bukola, when last did you find somebody something?
I will tell you that the ICPC would have Nigerians understand that 70% of Nigerians did not accept bribe.
It's not bribe I'm talking about.
So let's anchor at that point.
Bukola, we're not talking about. We're going to continue this conversation tomorrow because I had complaints about that's why bouncers. Bouncers are talking like anyway. That's the show for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
We'll be back tomorrow. I am Bukola Kukah.
And I'm Kayode Kikilu. Sunrise Daily is next, but don't forget our WhatsApp lines are back, or at least the WhatsApp line is back. So from tomorrow, that is the magic number with which you can reach us. Still have a great day. Stay with Channels Television.